What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, it's where we talk about the news topics that happen in the scale world of RC over the past week. First episode of 2023. I don't know what kind of start we're off to yet, but if you enjoy the Scale News Update regularly, hit the like button. Let's jump into this week's topics. Just before beginning the filming of this episode, I learned of the news of Ken Block passing away in a snowmobile accident. Ken Block, definitely the most influential motorsports person I can think of, to me personally, over the last 20 years or however long it's been since the original Gymkhana. There's of course already been an outpouring of condolences to friends and family across social media, as you would expect. But you know, he's been someone who's been so influential and kind of been a leader of how we've seen motorsports portrayed in media, social media, things like that over this time period that is definitely carved its own way of how we and what we enjoy online. Yes, it's a celebrity who I've never met online, but definitely had a bigger impact on me. But he was definitely someone who I admired as a creator, as a motorsports personality, as a, you know, however you want to put it. His thought of how he approached things was different than what was before him. It's hard to think of much else to say. Last week, we talked about the FMS Michigan and how it had been removed from the FMS website, their web store, and a number of places in general. In addition to the Michigan being removed, any of the other Jeep look-alike products that they had of different scales, from JKs and old style Willys Jeeps, as well as the Michigan, they'd all been removed. And I didn't see the other ones at first, just saw the Michigan. But it had been confirmed from FMS that this was a Jeep licensing request or contact from them. At this point, FMS is in talks with Jeep, they say, and they're in a holding pattern about what the re-release of this product may be. At this point, there is no official information, but it is exactly what we assumed that it was, as well as the other products related to it. Again, if you've got one, it looks like they're already going for a bit of a premium at the couple of places that I've still seen it listed online. At this point, it looks like they're either going to have to change that body enough to make it look like not a Jeep, or they're gonna have to rebody the platform entirely. Hard to say what they'll be able to do now that Jeep has got them under a bit of a microscope. Many people understand the protection of a likeness and how they want to have at least some control of that rather than allowing somebody to just copy it as they will and sell it under whatever name they want. Versus some people who just think like it's a model, they should just let it be there and be a form of flattery, you know, as the saying goes. I don't know how equally split those camps are. Let them go, or it's reasonable that they got stopped. Next, 1RC Racing released a new 1/18 scale asphalt modified RTR, and this is just a really cool looking little RTR. It is $219. It's an RTR and it's brushless. It looks super rad. You can get it in a number of different colors, or even in the RTR, you can get it with a clear body. This thing just looks cool. I don't know that I have any use for it, but it's a nice injection molded chassis. It is a solid rear axle with a 4-bar parallel 4-link rear suspension. A-arm front suspension. It's just really cool looking, and at only $219 for an RTR. I don't know, looks pretty cool. I mean, it would be kind of fun to have one on the shelf or what, you'll buzz around in a circle in the parking lot. I don't know. It looked too cool not to cover. And next, Cross RC just announced the release of the WT4, which they're saying is like a trail rescue rollback. This is a 4x4 rollback, you know, recovery truck, and it looks fantastic. I imagine this is going to use basically the same drivetrain as Cross has used in a number of their vehicles of this style. Just obviously this one has a new cab and a new bed, but it looks really, really good. The bed does seem to be functional. I haven't seen full details whether it will be powered or not, or whether it's just movable. Maybe it's movable and will be able to be powered, you know, with an accessory kit or something like that. Either way, haven't seen full price and information released on this yet, but this one's This one looks great. Cross does a good job with this type of truck. Detailed, hard bodies. I think this is definitely their strongest area. If I was to guess on the price for this, I'm guessing that like $499 to $549 range for the kit version of this from Cross. As a total guess, but just kind of looking at some of their other trucks and then adding what I feel like might be appropriate for that rear bed. I don't know. We'll see how far off I am. Next, if you have some Christmas cash laying around, that team associated Apex 2, the A550 Rally, is now in stock. This sits on that same platform that Associated released last year, but with the kind of cool Rally Sport looking top on it. A fun release, decent price point to it, kind of a cool, like mild, off-road basher. And if you happen to get a 3D printer for Christmas, I just released a handful of new files for you guys that you can pick up. I released the LS3 lower engine cover for VFD equipped VS410s. This fills the gap between the bottom of the frame rail and the skid plate where the motor and motor plate is. This just makes it look like the lower half of an engine. A really nice way to make it look scale appropriate. You'll be able to see that pulley behind the front axle. Everything clears well. Gives you the look of the engine without having to look underneath of the body. It's a nice file to have to add some detail to any of your VS410s. I also released a 3D printable roll cage that goes inside of the Phoenix body. This will mount to your interior tray and give you the look of a roll cage on the inside of the body. And lastly, I released one for the Proline K10 body. This is their rock crawler specific one, the 12.3 inch wheelbase K10 body. They had some other ones for different size trucks, but this is their most recent release. You can pick those up from my website. I'll put a link to where you can find them below under the store section. And if you're looking for some further details, J Concepts has you covered. These are their scale engine accessories. Kind of like a blower hat or some velocity stacks with an air cleaner on top, or you can put the air cleaner on the front of the blower hat, which I don't know that I've ever seen done before, but you can reconfigure these parts in whatever way you like and stick them to the hood of whatever vehicle you're trying to give a new appearance to. So check that out, J Concepts coming in with some new scale bits. This Wednesday for Livestream Takeover, come join Matt from the Scale Builders Guild and myself as we discuss all of the topics for the start of the new year, including the topic of an auction for a number of trucks. So come check that out, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Last week, we talked about the predictions that you guys made at the beginning of the year for 2022. And I talked about some of them that I felt came closest to being correct. This week, I read through all of your predictions for the upcoming year, and the one that I found to be one of the most interesting was from Martin Sabathie. And his prediction is that there's going to be a Hobbywing small scale version of like the Fusion market for the 124/118th. And I was like, that's actually a pretty interesting idea. One I hadn't necessarily thought of, but could definitely see. Those 124 scales, 118th scales can get a little cramped in there, and having a convenient combination like we have for the 110 scales would be interesting to see. There was a lot of other predictions, large scale or 6 scales from Traxxas, or a SCX6 size Capra from Axial. I do love the large scale stuff, so that sounded interesting as well, and those were super popular. But this one from Martin, it was the only one that I saw with that type of prediction, so be interesting to see if that comes true. For this week's question, I want you to predict how many new RTRs will we see this year? And not just a new color body. It has to at least be a new style body entirely on an RTR to count as a new truck. Last year I went through and counted, and there was 59 new RTRs that we talked about on the Scale News update. Now, of course, there was more that were outside of the realm of what I discussed, but 59, a lot of new releases from the last year. So I want to hear, how many do you think that we'll have this coming year? And I'm gonna try and keep track of it. I've got a note at the top of my Scale News document to keep track. I already got one on the board for this year with that 1RC Asphalt RTR. So let's see what we get for the coming year. Put your predictions in, and I'll swing back at the end of this year and see how close some of you were. Admittedly, a very rocky start to the beginning of 2023. Hopefully we can climb the hill and make the best of this year. Hope that you all had a safe and happy new year. Hopefully I'll see you back here next week for the Scale News update. Like, comment, subscribe, the whole deal. But Be safe, be happy, be healthy. See you guys next week. Bye.